on. All right, let's try it again. Ready? Let's impress Brittany. Ready? Hello, Brittany.
Hi.
They all have to do their little reaction. We're practicing with reactions on Zoom.
Okay.
They do the little plus thing. I'm sorry, the applause. Anyway, it's the little things when we're virtual.
I
Well,
found it.
there you go. Yay!
Got it.
Okay, so everybody, welcome to our third session of Virtual Career Chatter, and welcome to Brittany McRae from Posh and Bloom. And thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Ms. Boley, Ms. Summers, and all of our students for participating today. Brittany, before we get started, do you think you can give a little brief, the students all read your bio, so maybe a few things that aren't in your bio about yourself, introduce yourself a little bit?
Sure. So my name is Brittany. I am the creative director and founder of Posh and Bloom. I've been in florals for about 5 years. Had the opportunity to do some really big projects with Viacom. So I've worked with MTV, Paramount Studios, BET Network. I specialize in large scale installations. So anything that more like flowers hanging from the ceiling or flowers hanging from some odd object that you wouldn't normally hang them from. So I'm not your typical florist. I'm more of an event florist. Yeah.
No, thank you. That was great. That was great. And we'll get into like the bragging part where you get to talk about all the cool celebrities that you work with, but we'll like kind of save that for later to keep all the students waiting. So we're going to start with actually a student question. Erica, do you want to get us started here?
Who was your biggest inspiration, either going into the career or like now in the career?
Oh, that's a good one. So my biggest inspiration would probably have to be Michael Gaffney. So he is a florist that I took classes with approximately 3 years ago. Before ever having any big opportunities, I took a class with him. He's well known for doing the florals for Macy's Parade and just doing larger floral installations and not your typical arrangements. So I would have to say his work definitely was inspiring and definitely had an impact on my direction in floral design.
All right, thank you. We're gonna have to Google him and some of his stuff later. I wish we had like an assistant here, like they do, and be like, oh, show the slideshow now.
Right.
Okay, so the next question is going to be, because I didn't mention this in the intro, but you went to Abington.
I did.
So tell us a little bit about the year you graduated, some influences from Abington. These are all sophomores, so kind of reminisce about your sophomore year and how it has, affected you now, Abington.
So I did attend Abington, I guess my whole life. I started out at Overlook Elementary, then obviously went to Abington Middle School, and then it's also the high school. I graduated, I'm gonna tell my age, the class of 2005. I had a lot of great teachers and great memories from Abington. We have Mr. Saylor. We have is he still there?
I don't know.
No, he's not with us anymore.
Okay. I can see all the faces, but I can't remember, like, is it Martinelli? Was that Jim? Just so many different.
These sophomores just started anyway, so they started virtually.
Right.
So they probably don't know that many senior high teachers yet. I mean, the ones they have now.
Gotcha.
But yeah, they just kind of exited the junior high?
Gotcha. So yeah, no, Abington, great memories. Obviously a great school. I think we're known nationally. Yeah, I don't have any complaints. I had a great time at Abington, and it's definitely helped me mold me into who I am today. So.
And you're recommending some of your peers to come back and do these career chatters. So obviously it was a talented group of people.
Yes, I definitely have some peers that are also doing some awesome things with their careers. Some from the same class, I think others from different classes, but yeah.
Okay, so before we go to more student questions, well, actually, these are student questions that they submitted before. So
Okay.
did you ever explore other careers besides the one that you're in now?
Yes. So I originally had a very strong desire to be a pediatrician. So when I left Abington, I went into Ursinus College, which is located in Collegeville, Pennsylvania. It has a very strong biochemistry program. And I will tell you within the first 2 weeks of class, I knew that was not for me. And I actually switched my major to psychology. Then I transitioned into wanting to be a lawyer. And I don't know if anyone watches Law and Order Special Victims Unit, but I used to love that show. And I used to think Wong had the most amazing job where he was involved but never had to deal with the body. So I took my psychology major and actually created my own major. Paralegal psychology. So I ended up graduating from Kutztown University with a paralegal certificate and a bachelor's of science for psychology with the goal to eventually become a lawyer. And long story short.
Wait. You can't do a yada, yada, yada. Where did flowers come into that? This is a great story, by the way.
Flowers didn't even come in yet. They weren't the thing yet. So I think with law, I struggled with, I wanted to do criminal law. I struggled with being on the prosecution versus defense. So I couldn't find myself sleeping at night if I prosecuted someone that was innocent. And I couldn't find myself sleeping at night if I had to defend someone that was guilty. So that ended up being not the career path for me either. So I think every good story starts with love. So my boyfriend, so how I got into flowers, my boyfriend at the time used to always just get me flowers just because. And I think all girls love receiving flowers, right? We were looking to invest into something, and we were kind of dibbling dabbling in real estate. But one day he came home and he had, I guess when he went to purchase the flowers from the florist that he normally went to, she had told him, hey, you know, things have been tough and I'll be closing soon. So he came home with beautiful flowers and said, hey, how do you feel about investing in this? And I said, well, I've been seeing her work for 2 years and it's beautiful. So let's do it. Long story short, we helped get her back on track. She had several like weddings and funerals that she still had on her books, and she had fired a lot of her employees because she planned to close. And so I had 2 hands and she said, I need your hands. And I ended up just being a natural. And so that's.
So where were you, sorry to interrupt, but where were you, like, were you paralegaling? Like, what were you doing when this flower situation kind of came around?
Right. So I fell into social work. I was working with children in foster care. And I was doing that for several years. So when this happened, it was 2015. It wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I was in social work and I was working with children in foster care. And at night and after work, I would go to the floral shop and help her with her weddings and her funerals.
So the reason I asked that, it was because kind of I figured that you were doing something else, and this was your like, I don't know, like extra thing, side thing. And a lot of the people that come in end up saying that what they were doing on the side or their hobby in high school ends up being what they actually want to do. So some students, and maybe not these sophomores yet, but they kind of get really fixated on something and don't have time for their hobbies. And everyone that comes to these career chapters is like, do not give up those hobbies that you think are like taking up all your time. They end up being what a lot of time what you need. And even if it's not your career, it ends up you need that hobby.
Right. Just
Be a
as
well-balanced human being.
Exactly. No, so I would always encourage, if you have something that you like to do and that you would do with no one paying you, like if you like to do hair, or you like to make music, or you like to, knit, there's always someone out there that's willing to pay you for your hobby or something that you take a personal interest in, because more than likely you're going to do that thing very well, because one, you've been practicing for however long, two, you're passionate about it, and so therefore you'll always find a way to make money off that. So I definitely encourage those, like you said, those small hobbies that you have on the side that you enjoy doing, keep going, keep doing it, keep practicing. You never know where it will take you.
That is awesome. Thank you. Again, students, just unmute if you want to ask a question. So next student question is, what are some of your former weaknesses and how have you overcome them?
Former weaknesses. I would say procrastination is a very big struggle. I still struggle with it sometimes, and they do say some of us work the best under pressure. So I will say that has worked. However, it has also caused a high level of stress, so I wouldn't recommend it. Just how to avoid it is, one, remembering how you felt the last time you put yourself in a position where you could have prepared, or you could have taken a little bit more time to get yourself prepared. That level of stress when you feel like you're unprepared sometimes is enough to say, hey, let me start to plan my day. Or something that I started doing was creating like a block schedule. And then I set the timer on my phone. Like if I have something I need to do, I set a timer on my phone to say, hey, I'm going to give myself an hour for this. And I know this other project is due, and I need to set aside maybe an hour or two a day to just tackle it, one thing at a time, so that I'm not rushing, and to avoid that stress that I feel or have felt when doing things at the last minute. So, I would say giving yourself enough time, planning ahead, and possibly creating some type of schedule for yourself, and then giving yourself some type of reminder through, maybe it's someone that will hold you accountable, or again, using your phone and the technology you have with you to say, hey, I'm going to set a timer and, allot this time to do this thing and prepare.
Especially in the virtual setting, Ms. Summers and myself, and I'm sure Ms. DeVoli can attest to how keeping a schedule for yourself. So in high school, you have a schedule, the school does it for you. But you can all probably relate to having a couple different assignments and needing time to do that. And when they all pile up, sometimes it's good to block out time. So we appreciate that. And now more than ever, I think, because the schedule kind of shifted.
And scheduling, I like to plan like 10-minute break or 15 minutes to go take a walk, or just sit down and listen to music, because all this online stuff is really stressful in itself, and just taking a step back from that, schedule that in too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Don't make it 2 hours, make it
No, you gotta schedule in that time for yourself and those breaks. Those are needed.
I will add to that real quick. So students, those of you who overanalyze things or you get like bogged down by details or you find yourself to be a perfectionist with some items, setting a timer really holds you accountable for just moving on. Like put your effort in, but after that time is up, just move. You have to move on to whatever's next. Because some of us, and I get that way with certain projects, I'm like super into it and I like all the details and the minutia. And then before I know it, like 4 hours has gone by and I should have been done with that 3 hours ago. So especially for, these creative fields where like we are so excited and inspired to make something like super cool. Well, our super cool could have been done a while ago. Just keep it, keeping your eye on that too. It's not just about procrastination. Listen, I'm one of the biggest ones. But when we're super into something, setting a specific amount of time for us to we can move on. I love that, Brittany.
No, yeah. I mean, that was such a great point. And that is so true, especially in a creative setting. Like you said, you get stuck on the details. You want it to be perfect and you look up and it is 6 hours. Yes, that is awesome. That was a great point. For sure.
That is very excellent. It's like quality over quantity. If you spend too much time on something, it's like spend a quality amount of time and then call it a day. Very good. Okay. How about Robert? Do you have a question? He's going to type it in the chat.
Okay.
And if anyone else has a question, you can type it in the chat or unmute yourself. And you see how our questions are. They don't need to be on a specific topic. Anything you would like to ask Brittany, just don't be shy.
Yes, please ask away.
Okay, so Robert's question is, what are your main responsibilities as a florist?
No worries.
It's okay. Thank you, Robert.
Yes, thank you. As a florist, so I think my biggest thing for me would be customer satisfaction. And with flowers, because they're a perishable item, it's always important to have quality flowers that are as fresh as possible. So as a florist and a floral designer, I'd say my biggest responsibility is maintaining fresh inventory and customer satisfaction. I think so often people believe that flowers will only last a few days, and I get clients whose flowers last anywhere past a week or 2 weeks, and they're so amazed. And I think for me, again, it's about quality, it's about longevity, and so that would probably be my biggest responsibility.
Okay. Thank you.
Follow up to that one.
Go ahead.
Brittany, so how do you work with your suppliers to ensure that? Like, what do some of those relationships look like so that you can ensure the same quality to your customers? So students who are interested in business or even entrepreneurship or, any kind of field where you have to work with suppliers. In order to make whatever you're offering to people fabulous, like that relationship on the backside needs to be really strong. So Brittany, can you speak about that?
Sure. So if anyone knows anything about flowers, they typically grow on farms. Often they grow overseas. The easiest way for us to get them are through wholesalers. It's very important to have a good relationship with your wholesaler because you'll be able to know when the stem was cut from a farm based on the date. And the closer you are with your wholesaler, the more information that you'll be able to receive about, hey, how long has this been cut? How long has this been away from its stem? And, obviously the longer it's been away from its root, the older it is. And so it's always about, again, like you said, maintaining those good relationships so that you can get the information that you need to ensure that your inventory and your product is of quality. Mm-hmm. I hope that answers.
No, that definitely answers. It's interesting. I wonder if some florists don't do, you know what I mean? Like that's why they try to get, they probably can get them pretty cheap if they're older. I'm just like making stuff up. Yeah.
That's the thing. So definitely, even with my students, because everyone, can't purchase their flowers from a wholesaler. So I do recommend, if you do want to play around with flowers or you want to experiment, to go to your local produce junction or your local Trader Joe's. You will definitely find some really nice things and floral inventory there. However, once it gets to a place like Produce Junction or Trader Joe's or even your local grocery store or CVS, typically those stems are much older. They've already been through the farm, from the farm to the wholesaler, from the wholesaler to those other places. And there are some florists that tend to shop at those places because it is least expensive. So that's very true.
Yeah.
And as a consumer, you'll be able to know, because when your florals only last 1 day or 2 days, that's when you know, okay, maybe this florist isn't getting quality product, or maybe that's not what's important to them. So, yeah.
And word of mouth will travel way more positively. So it's like you weigh the pros and cons. You save money by going cheap. And this is true of any business model that you are interested in. Yes, you save money here, but then when word of mouth is that your flowers die quick, that's not going to make you any money. So anyway, I was just trying to like relate it to any type of business.
No, I agree.
Next question is definitely going to segue into some of your bragging rights. So students ask, what are some big projects that you're working on now, but also what are some of the big projects that you have worked on in the past?
Okay. So my biggest project right now is the Posh and Bloom Studio. We actually just opened it here at home in Jenkintown on August 1st. So that is currently my big project, my big baby right now. Obviously very nervous and nerve-wracking trying to open during the pandemic, but the community has been very supportive. We've been doing pretty well, so I'm definitely grateful for that. Because large events are at a standstill and everything has transitioned, including your classes in school, to virtual, there is not much of a need for floral design and decor for those larger events. Some of the past large projects I can say that I've worked on, this year alone, I did the Grammys, I did the Oscars, I did a multi-city tour with Lena Waithe, in so many cities, for her new series called 20s. I've worked with Tyler Perry. I've worked with, again, Paramount Studios. So I've worked with some interesting.
I can help you with someone that you worked on with that you didn't mention.
Whatever.
Didn't you work with Michelle Obama or something?
Yeah. So
that was on my list.
So I did do a leading women's conference out in California, and Michelle Obama was in attendance, as well as Tina Knowles, who is Beyonce's mother. So, yeah, I've had the opportunity to work and do some great things for different award shows, more so red carpets, or what I do, red carpets, movie premieres, and corporate galas.
All right.
Lots of travel, I guess, involved with your work.
Yes. So I will say last year alone, I averaged 1 to 2 days at home per month. It was definitely a complete transition coming from a social worker in foster care. It was home more than normal. It was definitely a great opportunity. I got to meet great people. I got to be in rooms I never dreamed I would be in. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed it. I will say though, it can definitely weigh on you traveling that much. So it has its perks and it has its, you know, like anything else, it has its downfalls. You don't realize how, if you're selling in one area, like your career, how you might be missing out on those personal relationships. I missed a lot of milestones. I missed housewarmings. I missed baby showers. I missed my friends' birthdays and my mom's birthday and my dad's. So you know, you find a way to make it work, like we all are now, with sending gifts or finding a way to celebrate them while you're away. But that was definitely a different transition. Again, it's a great experience, but I'm a little happy to be home. So
I was going to say that must have been a pretty big transition when everything shut down then.
very, very big transition. So I've actually had this studio here in Jenkintown for a year. I didn't realize that I would keep being requested for work. And so this place ended up kind of being like storage. I would just send home my inventory from the events and just have someone stick it in the basement here. And my entire 2020 was booked. My entire 2021 was booked. I was starting to book events into 2022. So when the pandemic hit, literally my calendar cleared out, and I would say for about 4 weeks, I was okay with that because I definitely needed that break. But then I was like, oh, well, what am I supposed to do? Like, I knew I was okay for at least a year or two. Like, I don't even know what I'm supposed to do right now. So, like I said, I had the studio and I always had a vision here. So I was like, well, let me start that and see how it goes. So.
All right. Thank you for that. That is like probably one of the biggest shifts. I mean, all of us had a huge transition, but I don't think we're in airplanes multiple times a week. Students, we're going to take a pause. And now that you've learned some of the amazing projects that she's worked on, any questions? I have, oh, there we go. Go ahead, Ashley. Oh, and then I'll get the
Okay, so my question is, how did you start working with like famous people like BT and MTV? Like, what jump started your career?
Yeah. So when I decided to do flowers on my own, which was to the end of 2017, my birthday. On my birthday, at the end of 2017, I decided to branch off from the florists I was working with and kind of do my own thing. I was making flowers out of my kitchen. I was doing people's weddings, funerals, and just because arrangements literally out of my kitchen. Within 1 year, I would post some things on social media. And I would say I had a friend who was already in large scale production, and he had an event happening in Atlanta and an event happening in California. And he had his florist was in Atlanta, so he needed someone in California. And he had seen me post a few of my arrangements and said, hey, how do you feel about doing this event? So I was like, yeah, sure, of course. Now, meanwhile, I'm doing arrangements out of my kitchen, and to ask me to fly to California to do a 3-day event and to do it for Deborah Lee, who was the previous president of BET Networks, was just totally different. And I said yes, but I absolutely had no clue what I was going to do when I got there. It worked out, thank goodness. But that's how I got started. Just, again, I guess enjoying what I was doing, posting it, and making sure that people were able to see that there is this other thing I do. And that's how I got transitioned.
That self-promotion is really viable these days. Many years ago, before social media, was impossible for someone to really market or create things on their own without being connected to, bigger systems and things like that. So that's an amazing development that can be really, pertinent to what you guys might want to do with your businesses or creations or ideas that you may have.
No, that's a great, Nancy. I agree. Continue to self-promote. And I will say, I am not the best. Like, I don't really, I'm a typically private person, so I don't like to post often. So when I said I was posting like here and there. And just that little bit of, once a month or once every other month posting I was able to get someone's attention that noticed, and they may not have said anything at first. But once we sat down and had a conversation, he said, yeah, I noticed that you'd been posting for, at least like 3 to 6 months. So someone could be watching you and you just never know. So, like you were saying, Nancy, I definitely encourage people to continue to self-promote. I will be honest and say I struggle with it still, even having a business. My social media platforms have very little content on them, but we are working on that. That is something else that we are going to work on through 2020 and moving forward. So yeah, self-promote, use your Instagram or your Snapchat or your TikTok, like all those things people pay attention to. So you never know who's watching.
Does anybody here have like something like a hobby or something that you're into that you work on? The students, I mean. I know Mr. Foley has tons of hobbies.
Not yet.
And also, if it's not social media too, just being open about it with friends, with family. Because like Brittany said, like some people could be uncomfortable, especially in the beginning stages, posting away, but being open and talking to teachers, other students about this project or this thing you're working on means that they'll keep you in mind. Like this person kept Brittany in mind because they knew that she was posting about it. So just don't keep it too hidden away, because you never know the connections that you could make.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashley, thank you for that question. Erica, it looked like you had a question when Ashley did.
Yeah, so when you're like traveling and stuff, how do you like deal with the flowers? Like, how does that work?
So in every city, there's a flower market, or at least a wholesaler. So that was definitely a big adjustment. If you recall, I went from making flowers out of my kitchen to like these large events kind of overnight. So that was something I was kind of thrusted into. I will say the best flower markets in the world, or at least in our nation, are in California and in New York. So those two places, they have what they call open flower markets, where, gosh, you walk down the street or the entire block and they're just flowers out and they're all over the place, and you can find rare flowers that you wouldn't typically get here. But from city to city, there are different wholesalers or flower markets, and you or I had to make acquaintance very quickly. I would literally land in the city. So when I first started, I would land in a city. I'd have to look up all of their flower markets before I got there. I would call them all, let them know what my event was, let them know that I was coming, see if they could pull florals that I may need based on the color palette or the design direction that I was going in. And then once I got there, we would see each other's faces. And eventually, when I started traveling, I was averaging, like, it was Chicago, Chicago, Miami, California, New York, Washington, D.C., Houston, and Atlanta were probably the cities that I frequented. And I would say I saw those cities no less than 3 times a piece last year alone. When they start to continue to see your face when you make that phone call, they're very happy to help. So I hope that answered your question. There is a flower market or flower wholesaler in each city, and you can kind of call ahead if you know what you're looking for. And then obviously when you touch down and you get there, you can drop in and see what they have, see what will work for you and what your design direction is going to be.
Awesome. Another good question. Thank you, Erica.
That was a great question.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Does any other students? I have a few more questions on my list, but we are getting towards the end of the session. So definitely want to get your questions asked if you have any. I'm going to ask this question while they are all thinking of some more. Brittany, what advice would you give to a high school sophomore today, especially, virtual, COVID, pandemic, and the lessons you've learned, along the way for yourself? What would you say to these sophomores?
Yes. Again, I think I'm going to go back to whatever it is that you enjoy doing, whether that's a hobby. One, I feel like it relieves some stress. It's something you enjoy doing. So in any time like this, I think we're all looking to do the things that we enjoy doing. So keep doing that. Be flexible. Learn to be easy on yourself. So if something's not going in a direction that you thought it would or that you imagined it would, because things are constantly changing, especially in these times. So learn to just be flexible, be adaptable. If things shift, learn to be easy with yourself and just say, okay, how can I change this, or how can I adapt to this, or how can I make this work for me? I think that's really important, especially in these times. And just be kind, because you never know what people are going through. Sometimes a kind word could one, brighten your day and brighten the person next to you. So I think kindness and consideration is definitely needed for everyone as we navigate through these times and navigate, do all these changes that we're all having to adjust to. So.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. And before, this is the end, but I'm going to take it slow. Ms. Summers, Mr. Bully, do you ladies have anything to add?
Question, Brittany, real quick. Speaking of flowers, have you ever considered starting your own garden to experiment with different varieties? Has that come to mind?
So it's funny, because I work with flowers, so often people believe that I can grow things. When I tell you, I do not have a green thumb. Every plant I buy, I kill. So I work with cut flowers. They come already cut off the stem. I am not, and it's something I need to work on for sure, because I would love to have my own rose garden, or, like you said, play with growing my own florals and, being able to brag about, oh, I grew this and now I'm, putting it in your arrangement and it's beautiful. Definitely something hopefully down the line. But as of now, I still have to work on my green thumb, because it's not at all.
I think Amanda
Totally
was looking to partner up.
Yeah, I can't get it together at all. My plans, poor babies.
Oh, I feel like I have a lot of students who are interested in culinary, and as a chef, like, you are pulling these ingredients and preparing them, right?
Right.
So some chefs like to grow their own ingredients, but some chefs, they want to go to the market, say, boop, 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 so I feel like there's a lot of similarities between what you do and being a chef.
I
So
agree.
it's kind of fun to think about the possibilities there. And I think I started experimenting with the garden in the spring because we were home and I was like, ooh, let me start playing around. So I totally can empathize with the green thumb question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, still working on that.
Nice. No, yeah, I definitely, I can't, I try. And I'm like, I start with plants because I don't want to see the flowers die. I'd be upset. So one day we'll get it.
Listen, you have to have goals. This is good.
Listen, always challenge yourself.
Okay, so final moment for student questions before we end the session. Okay. Well, Brittany, I cannot thank you enough for joining us today. And if you don't mind, once we end the session, can you stay on for a couple minutes?
Sure.
Great. And students, thank you so much
Yes,
for
thank you.
today.
Thank you for having me. I definitely appreciate it. I hope you all learned something. Got a nice takeaway, and enjoy your weekend. It's Friday.
Thank you. Oh, wait, don't go yet, students, because I forgot we have to do our closure. Mr. Bowley?
Love that we have Abington alumni coming back. So we do a little ghost on 3. Hands in, children.
Ooh.
Hands in. What we're gonna do, ghost on 3. Ghost on 3, ghost on 3. 1, 2, 3, go.
Okay, so now officially the students are dismissed. Have a lovely weekend. Thank you again. And I'm looking forward to your responses.
Thank you.